The Accelerator and the Ranger are both powerful DPS towers in Tower Defense Simulator. In many cases, it can be difficult to decide which one is better. In this video, I will explain which tower is better and why. But before we get into the video, please consider liking and subscribing as it only takes a few seconds and it helps me a ton. As per usual, we'll start with the stats, beginning with the Excel. At level 0, it costs $4,500 to place, deals 10 damage every 0.208 seconds, has an overcharge of 300, takes 2.5 seconds to charge up, 2.5 seconds to cool down, has a range of 18 and a DPS of 26.69. At level 1, it costs a total of $5,500, deals 15 damage every 0.208 seconds, has an overcharge of 300, takes 2.5 seconds to charge up, 2.5 seconds to cool down, has a range of 18 and a DPS of 32.75. At level 2, it costs a total of $8,000, deals 15 damage every 0.208 seconds, has an overcharge of 600, takes 2.5 seconds to charge up, 2.5 seconds to cool down, has a range of 20, and a DPS of 45.05. At level 3, it costs a total of $12,750, deals 40 damage every 0.208 seconds, has an overcharge of 600, takes 2.5 seconds to charge up, 2.5 seconds to cool down, has a range of 20 and a DPS of 73.89. At level 4, it costs a total of $24,000, deals 40 damage every 0.158 seconds, has an overcharge of 1,280, takes 1.5 seconds to charge up, 2.5 seconds to cool down, has a range of 22.5 and a DPS of 141.34. At max level, it costs a total of $60,000, deals 100 damage every 0.108 seconds, has an overcharge of 2,400, takes 1.5 seconds to charge up, 2.5 seconds to cool down, has a range of 25, and a DPS of 364.08. For the Accelerator, the max level has the best value, which is really convenient for a late game DPS tower since you'll want to max them all out. The value itself is also pretty decent at $164 per DPS. Now, time for the Ranger. At level 0, it costs $4,500 to place, which is the same as the Accelerator, does 80 damage every 4.508 seconds, has a range of 50, and a DPS of 17.75. At level 1, it costs a total of $6,000, does 80 damage every 3.508 seconds, has a range of 50, and a DPS of 22.81. At level 2, it costs a total of $10,500, does 140 damage every 3.508 seconds, has a range of 50, a DPS of 39.91, and gives a 15% range buff for 20 seconds to all towers in a certain range. At level 3, it costs a total of $24,000, does 300 damage every 3.258 seconds, has a range of 50, and a DPS of 92.08. At max level, it costs a total of $54,000, deals 1,050 damage, plus 150 splash damage every 7.008 seconds, has a range of 50, and a DPS of 171.23, and a value of $350 per DPS. At first glance, the Accelerator seems a lot better, having much better DPS and much better value, but there are multiple things to consider. First of all, supports. With the Commander's 50% fire rate buff and the DJ's 20% damage buff, the Accelerator has a DPS of 435.57, while the Ranger has a DPS of 291.09. While that is significantly less, it does mean the Ranger gets buffed by 70%, while the Accel only gets buffed by about 20%. That's a huge difference, especially when you consider more support towers like the Merc base or the flag consumables. Another thing to consider is reliability. The Accelerator is very prone to getting stunned and being unreliable, as it has to take time to charge up, and it is not stun immune. The Ranger, on the other hand, is completely stun immune, has full map range in every map, and does not have any delay before attacking, making it a much more reliable attacker. The Ranger also gives all towers in a certain range a 15% range buff at the start of each wave for 20 seconds, which can be really useful for something like extending the DJ's range to get cheaper upgrades for your towers. But under both the Commander and DJ, 8 Accels have a DPS of 3,484.56, while 7 Rangers would only have a DPS of 2,037.63. So yeah, the Ranger does have all those things I mentioned earlier, but you can't really brush past a 42% decrease in DPS. That can be the difference between winning and losing in some cases, since, fast enemies can just run straight by the Ranger's range, since it takes 7 seconds to fire. All of these numbers and considerations makes the choice between these two towers really difficult, but when you pile everything together, I think the Ranger is overall a better tower. It's also just much more easy to obtain, as it has no level requirement and costs 12,000 coins, which is like 3 to 4 hours with a good grinding and efficient strategy, while the Accelerator not only has a level 50 requirement, but costs 2,500 gems, which you can only get from beating hardcore mode, and takes almost 5 hours even with a good strategy. Now, to wrap everything I set up, I think the Ranger is better mainly because of its amazing versatility and reliability. But like in all my other comparison videos, I want to make it clear that both towers are amazing, and if you can pick both, you probably should. Now, if you enjoyed this video, or if you found it useful in any way, please consider liking and subscribing, as it only takes a second and it helps me out a ton. And these videos take forever to make. You can also always change your mind later if you feel like it. With all that being said, thank you for watching, and have an amazing day.